Have you ever felt like there's not enough time to get things done? Or maybe sometimes you feel like you're always on, and that even though you are doing all the time, you're not getting closer to the things that you want to achieve, or they feel still pretty distant. That's exactly what I felt for a very long period of time. We're in January, and I wanted to share one quick framework that I learned from Tony Robbins in order to be able to accomplish the goals and the outcomes that you want out of life. I'll give you a little story about my experience and why I decided to learn about this framework and why I'm sharing this with you. My name is Ricky. I'm an engineer that turned into a sales guy. So around 2 years ago, I made the decision to start my own business. I knew that I needed to start managing my time better in order to be able to do more, to accomplish more, and to get what I wanted, But it feels like I had endless to-do lists. Like every single day I just had a list of things to do, and I wasn't really feeling driven to get them done. It wasn't until I came across this one particular framework from Tony Robbins that I was able to just start changing it. 2024, last year, the first half of it was very challenging for me on a business standpoint, on a professional setting, right? My business had only been around for a little bit over a year and a half or two, and I was still trying to figure out a bunch of things, and things were breaking. Full transparency, things were breaking, and so I had to take a break for a couple of weeks, and then the second part of the year, I went at it with a different approach, and I started implementing some of the things that I'll share with you on this video that allow me to actually achieve those things that I set for. It really starts with asking the question, what did you want? If you take away something from this video, is to start asking yourself the question, what do I want? What is the outcome that I want to achieve, instead of what do I have to do? What is on my list? When you look at it like that, the emotional feelings that you get from it are going to be completely different. After asking yourself the question of what do you want, you also want to kind of like rank yourself and give yourself time constraints. And so that's why I say, instead of planning for a full year, I think it's much more efficient to plan for 90 days. I started asking myself, like, what are the things that I actually want to accomplish in the next 90 days? When you put a time constraint and when you look at it from a much smaller window of time, it allows you to think about it every day and actually make progress towards it. And so the first thing that I learned from Tony Robbins is kind of like looking at your life within buckets or categories, right? For me, I basically had two main buckets, like personal categories and then professional categories. On a personal setting, we have things like time, body, emotions, relationships, work, finances, growth, contribution, or things that you do. And then on a professional setting, basically like the categories for the business, sales and marketing, or making sure that we have the right team members as part of the team. What I did differently on the second half of the year of 2024 was I did a quick audit to understand, from 1 to 10, how would I rank each of these categories? And so I started asking myself, like, how do I start looking at my time? And how do I start prioritizing things? Like, those were the two questions that I wanted to answer, and I needed solutions for those. In my particular case, during 2024, I knew I wanted to, not needed to, but I wanted to focus on, relationships specifically. The main reason why is I'm getting married this year, and so that was something that I knew needed my attention, and I wanted to give it my attention in order to make it like a good experience overall. Another category was, to me, kind of like around time and learning how to manage my time. As I started learning about time and how to go about time in general, there's this course from Tony Robbins, and there's this framework again that he shares where we can look at time into four main buckets or categories, I guess. The first one is stuff that's unimportant and that's not urgent, like scrolling on the internet or social media or watching TV. The next category or bucket will be things that are not urgent but they're important, and those could be emails, they could be phone calls, they could be text messages. Then the following one is stuff that's urgent and important. If you are someone that's hungry, that's an achiever, you probably spend a lot of time here. And these are things like that are work related, or the things that you gotta get done, and usually they're urgent because you didn't work on them with enough time, and so they become urgent and important. The issue with this specific category, if you're spending all of your time here, is that you will feel very stressed, and that has a cost. And then the last category will be stuff that's important but it's not urgent. Some of the things here could be, your health, it could be relationships, it could be, growth, like reading, learning things, or planning things that are gonna actually have an impact in your life. You can quickly realize that if you wanna feel fulfilled, if you wanna feel like you're winning at the game of life, regardless of what you're doing, you want to spend the majority of your time on this last category, doing things that are important to you, but they're not urgent. This is what he calls being on the zone. So, after asking myself the question, what do I want? After asking myself the question, what do I want over the next 90 days? And categorizing those things, I started asking myself, like, where am I spending my time? One quick tip that I highly recommend for you to do is start literally tracking your time, for a full week. I have my watch on and I put a 50-minute timer, and every time that it goes off, I ask myself, did I do the thing that I wanted to do? Or did I allow myself to get distracted? Am I doing something that's urgent and important? Am I doing something that's, unimportant and not urgent? Am I doing stuff that's important but not urgent? Or am I on the zone? And what I've come to realize is every single time that I'm answering yes to that question, at the end of the day, I'm feeling like I crushed the day. I feel like a winner in general. Before doing this exercise, it was really tough for me to say, oh wow, like look at that thing that I accomplished, or wow, this was a very special moment, or I got to spend time with this specific person and I wanted to do that with them. And so if you've missed the mark on some of your goals, or again, if you feel like you're losing, even though you're getting stuff done, this is gonna allow you to actually accomplish those things. One last thing that was a game-changing perspective for me was to start rewarding myself for the work that I was doing. Just like we do when we're little, if a kid does something well, usually they get rewarded with candy, or maybe they go to the park or they get a trip, but we forget about that as we continue to grow up, and we believe that we must go and work and do this hard 24/7. So if there's no reward, it's really tough to continue and make that sustainable. I started asking myself, like, how can I start recognizing those wins and start rewarding myself a little bit more? And that's when reflection and asking yourself a question like, what did I do this week, or what did I do today, will give you. For this particular one, I also came across Jesse Itzler, and he has this framework or approach called the Big S Calendar, which is you plan your year in advance. And ideally you need like a full-on paper to be able to put it all together. And so right here on this calendar, I was able to plan out my full 2025 year. And as you can see, everything is categorized. The two biggest things that I took away from doing this exercise was, number one, making sure that you have a big thing that you're striving for that specific year. In Japanese, or in Japan, they call this the misogi. For me this year, it's getting married. I'll be getting married in February of 2025. And so if you're watching this later, maybe this is, this will be outdated, but that's kind of like the life-changing event that's going to be happening in my life. And then the next thing that I learned about doing this exercise too was creating this thing called the Kevin's rule. Every 6 weeks, you plan to do something to reward yourself, to do an activity that you maybe wouldn't have done otherwise on a regular basis. It could be a little trip to camping. It could be living an experience that you've been wanting to experience for a long time, volunteering, going to a specific place. And so at the end of the year, if you think about it, and if you apply these two ways of rewarding yourself, you have one misogi that allows you to look back and say, what did I accomplish this year? What was the big thing? What was the big theme of the year? And then the second one, it's really like, these are the 6 really cool things that I did during the year. And so I feel like I am succeeding, that I'm winning at life instead of feeling like a loser. These are 2 very easy frameworks that anyone can implement. And again, it all comes down to the power of the questions that you start asking yourself. What do I want? Where am I spending my time? What would I like to accomplish over the next 90 days? Am I looking back and rewarding myself every single week? And this will allow you to feel fulfilled and successful. All right, that's all I wanted to share. Hope this framework is valuable to you as well, and we'll see you on the next one. Peace.